Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. Christopher Hamill is back from his holidaying in Crete/Greece. How was your time away, hamster?
It was a lovely jaunt, mate. I feel energised. I mean, football has gone into meltdown since I left. Come back and Barcelona have absolutely come undone at the seams, haven't they? Missed a hell of a week of football. So looking forward to catching up.
And of course, we've got Pato van Straten here as well. Pato, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, though. My holiday plans have kind of been scuppered. I wanted to go to Paris next month. And, I don't think I can. Boo.
Oh, gutted, big man. Well, I don't have any holiday plans at the moment, so all is well. But I tell you where isn't all well is Barcelona, because they have gone to shit, haven't they, in the last week. And our first question of the day was sent in by Milos Valizevi, who says, with Koeman as the new Barca manager, do you expect a rebuild? So we're going to be doing a little bit of a Barcelona-focused episode. Now, we did do a Barcelona-focused podcast this week as well. If you're not already subscribed to the FD podcast channel, what on earth are you doing? Go over and subscribe to that right now. And that was kind of looking at the problems that Barcelona had faced. You know, the 8-2 battering, the terrible signings over the last few years, and the signing of Koeman. So we'll skip over that a little bit. But he does have a hell of a turnover job here at Barcelona. Bartomeu last night saying that around 15 players are up for sale this summer. So, Pato, let's start with you. What sort of positions need to be signed, and what sort of sales need to be made this summer, in your opinion?
Well, just to be clear, their week was actually worse than it seems on the face of it as well. Like, not only did they lose 8-2 and sack Setien, but Samuel Umtiti tested positive for COVID, I think, on Friday. Ter Stegen had knee surgery and is now out till November. And Arthur was caught in the early hours, I think, of Monday morning, drunk driving.
Wow.
And is going to have to deal with that legal situation before he goes away to Juventus. So it was a really fun few days for Barcelona fans. To be honest with you, I think there's pretty much no area of the squad they couldn't do with strengthening, you know? I think, like keeper's fine. Ter Stegen is an amazing keeper, and yes, he's out till November, but you can deal with that. That'll be kind of okay. Basically, everywhere else, I think is not good enough. On the other hand, I think that they might, even though I think it's the most important area in a lot of ways, I think they might have to kind of stick with what they have in midfield, because I think that there are probably more important areas right now. Like, they've already brought in Pjanic. They're not going to be able to just completely chuck Busquets on the scrap heap. You're not really going to get money for Vidal or even Rakitic, though there are rumours that he's going to go back to Sevilla. And with De Jong there, you kind of think you might just have to make do with this plus Sergio Roberto plus Rafinha back from loan.
Pato, if you were Koeman, obviously you've managed De Jong at the national team level, and there are quotes from him saying that he would play Busquets. He would drop Busquets in favour of De Jong in the past. Would that be one of your first ports of call? Would you be binning Sergio Busquets and putting De Jong as the defensive midfielder in this Barca side?
It depends what games we're talking about. Like, Busquets is still a perfectly useful player. Like, Busquets is still going to help you beat the majority of Spanish sides. It really depends what else you've got around the squad. Like, look, I think if you're going to try and bring back say Coutinho, maybe you want to play Coutinho in a 3-man midfield, in which case, yeah, you probably need more legs than Busquets. You need De Jong plus somebody else, like maybe Sergio Roberto, maybe Rafinha. I don't know, man. Like, I don't think Busquets is a problem, like, for the side. Like, he's going to be a useful player for them going forward. To me, the issue is getting a front line that is actually balanced and works. Because Luis Suarez is now 33, he'll be 34 by the end of next season. Leo Messi's had an amazing season and still couldn't rescue Barcelona. Griezmann, you're going to kind of have to stick with it because there's no way you can shift him, I don't think, right now. Ousmane Dembele's hamstring muscle is detached from the rest of his leg. Like, I mean, this is a really troubling situation. So to me, like, the way that you keep a side competitive at the top is making sure they have top class attackers. So I would probably bring back Coutinho and maybe try and invest in another forward. But to do that, you might have to take a bath on Dembele. You'll probably have to sell Suarez.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because their recruitment's been so horrible over the last few years. I mean, we went into it on the podcast in quite a lot of detail, but around 800 million euros spent since 2014, and maybe 2 of those players of the 30 plus that have signed have been good for the club in Longley and De Jong. The rest have kind of been poor signings. So let's start at the back then. Let's start at the back because we're saying Ter Stegen is going to stay, and I think that probably is going to happen. Bartomeu is saying that he's going to sign a new contract despite that injury. Should we start at right back? Because Nelson Semedo against Bayern Munich had an absolutely torrid time, but he was one of the names listed by Bartomeu in the players he wants to keep at the club. So do you think, Hamster, Nelson Semedo is good enough for Barcelona at right back, having seen what you saw of him against Alphonso Davies?
Well, it's a good question, but I want to backtrack a little bit because I think before Barcelona even think about buying anyone, they have to shift an awful lot of talent. A report came out in The Athletic that they have to make £109 million on player sales just to sort of break even or to meet financial sort of plans they'd made for this season. Obviously, the season starts in mid-September, so they don't have a lot of time to sort of arrest this situation. And some sort of players that could have gone for, in the region of 20 to 30, we touched upon Rakitic earlier, are now worth much less or, in the final year of their contract. Luis Suarez has 12 months left on his contract. He's being paid 15 million euros a year, reportedly. So yeah, it's all well and good sort of linking him with Ajax, but in all likelihood, he's just going to sit there for a year, isn't he, and earn that money because Ajax certainly won't pay it. So it's not just that they have aging stars. They have aging stars that are on ridiculous money. Jordi Alba, I think they're very keen to ship him out. He signed that lucrative new bumper deal, didn't he, a season or 2 seasons ago. He's on 10 million euros a year. Now, if you're shopping around for a left back in the market, why would you go for Jordi Alba on that sort of money when the likes of Reguilon are available? So unfortunately for Barcelona, they're paying these aging stars top whack, and COVID has made their wages totally unviable for even top clubs. I think in 17-18, Barcelona actually became the highest paying club in sport, full stop. Manchester City were 13th or something, which gives you some indication as to how ridiculous the wages are at Barcelona. I think it's over 500 million euros. So they're going to need to shed an awful lot of talent before they even bring players in. And there's players there that I think, Firpo, Todibo, Titi, maybe not even like Elena, who are perfectly serviceable players for like Champions League clubs. So it might be them that get culled, right? But to go back to your question, Nelson Semedo, I think they're going to have to stick with him because are they going to be able to shop for a top right back? Hakimi's already, I would say, slipped through their fingers, but it was very unlikely that Real Madrid would deal with Barcelona when it came to Hakimi, right? But who are they going to bring in? You're looking at speculative buys at best. So I think they stick with Nelson Semedo. I mean, he's not really proved an attacking force, which was why they bought him, right? Only I think I can't remember the assist figures, but they're not particularly impressive. But I think they're going to have to stick with Nelson Semedo, buddy.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the Semedo factor. There's more important issues to deal with than that right-back situation. You've got Semedo there, and at least you can say Sergio Roberto offers him a little bit of cover as well. In the centre-back area, I do think they're going to have to sign players. Just moving on to that position, because it looks like Umtiti is going to be sold this summer. I'd be surprised if they give him another summer.
Gerard Piqué, fallen out, haven't they? Umtiti and Barcelona have fallen out.
Well, they've fallen out
over that knee operation.
They've fallen out loads of times, haven't they? I remember it happened like a couple of years ago when they demanded he went for surgery on his knee, and he refused the surgery and wanted to ride it out. And I think ever since then there's been a bit of a breakdown in relations. Gerard Piqué as well openly said after that Bayern Munich game he will step aside, he will leave the club in order to let the next generation come through, which is quite honourable and maybe needs to happen.
But also, because of COVID, I think an important note is that these guys don't have those lucrative retirement homes to head to now because the MLS, because China, these typical destinations for 33-year-old Champions League, World Cup, European Cup winners, they're not really there, or it's not really as fertile a ground anymore. So where's Gerard Piqué going to go? I mean, he's still Barcelona's best defender, but who's going to pay him that wage?
AC Milan probably. I think Gerard Piqué will probably find a home at and a fairly decent club in Europe, to be honest with you. I think he's still 33. Maybe has a couple good years left at the top of the game. Not at necessarily the truly elite Champions League winning level, but sort of, maybe on the outskirts of the Champions League.
Yeah, like a Lazio type club. Like they're the sort of team that like potentially want to take on these guys. I actually disagree. I don't think he's their best defender. I think Longley is. But I don't know. I think that probably Italy is the best place to look to shift these guys, right? Because in Italy, you feel like people are still open to older players, and they're generally more open to swaps. And you can sort of imagine, going to Inter and saying, we want Skriniar, and giving them a bunch of like it in return for it. Like I know that sounds ridiculous, but I feel like Inter are kind of always up for like, yeah, we'll take our To Vidal and Rakitic. Like that sounds great.
Yeah, I've just got an image of like Piqué at Roma as well. Obviously they lost Smalling. I don't know if they found that replacement yet, because they were linked quite heavily with Vertonghen, weren't they? And he ended up going to Benfica. So like that sort of slow retirement home league, maybe being a bit kind.
Imagine Roma pitching that to Gerard Piqué. You're our Chris Smalling replacement. What a fall from grace that would be.
I mean, he did have a fantastic season didn't he?
But they didn't want to pay like, what was it?
13 mil, I think.
13 mil for him. Yeah. So yeah, I think teams are just going to be so. I mean, maybe not at the very, very top, but teams are going to be much more kind of responsible, aren't they? In general.
Yes. So let's say that Umtiti and Piqué do leave the club. Probably need a centre back to come in alongside Longley. As Pato said there, he's had an okay season. Where do they shop in this market? Because I've got a few notes written down in front of me here. The likes of Lucas Hernandez, who might be our favourite Bayern. I just don't think they can afford that level of player. And the same with Skriniar. I don't think they can afford that level of player. So Pat, is there any sort of cheap options on the market that you actually think would improve Barcelona?
Well, yeah, I think there probably are some guys around. I mean, like you're seeing Arsenal and Napoli currently tussle over Gabriel from Lille. Like, I don't see why that would be like a crazy move for Barcelona to make. Like, he's very good in the air. He's a good passer. He's left-footed. He very rarely gets beaten on the deck. He's pretty quick. So with all those kind of raw materials, you think worst case scenario, he'll probably be fine. And because he's 22, you can probably sell him on in a couple of years' time. Like they've done that before. They bought Todibo for pennies. They'll probably sell him for a bit more this summer. They bought Jeremina for pennies. They sold him at a substantial markup. So I think that those sorts of moves would be smart. But we always see these young defenders, like Tanguy Kouassi leaving PSG and Bayern just snap him up. Like those are moves that Barcelona could be looking at. But instead, it just feels like they're getting fixated on Eric Garcia. Yeah, Eric Garcia used to be in our academy. We have to get guys who used to be in our academy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 weeks' time we start hearing rumours about them, making bids for like Hector Bellerin or something, because I just feel like Barcelona are not imaginative enough in the market anymore.
Well, that's going to be pretty much my next point. Like, I feel like they're going to revert to the mean, right? Eric Garcia probably, bring Thiago Alcantara home. There'll probably be a motion to do that as well. And there's like a lot of nostalgia around Koeman. I mean, obviously you boys have discussed it on the podcast, and obviously there's a lot of he scored that goal against Sampdoria. He was part of the dream team. But I just wanted to ask you, Per, what you actually think of the appointment. I mean, he's perfectly serviceable, but do you think he's just a stopgap, or is there more to it?
I think Mikey McCubbin summed up really well on the podcast. He said that he's going to be here for a year until the elections. I just think that he is the sort of appointment for Bartomeu that kind of appeases a few people. And, Bartomeu is going to be keen to be the guy, number one, who didn't sell Lionel Messi and kind of just get to the end now without his reputation being totally tarnished. And I think the worry might be if Pochettino came in or something like that that's going to rip up a few trees, that he starts to openly criticise Bartomeu and things really fall apart for him. So I think Koeman's kind of just like a steady Eddie and is just going to get him through the next year. I don't think he's going to rip up any trees, and I get that he's a Barcelona legend, but do I think he's the calibre of manager that Barcelona need in this show? I mean, probably not, in my opinion. He's just fine. He's just a stopgap, I think, Pat.
The best thing that Koeman could do this year for Barcelona would be just to, like, completely sacrifice his popularity for the good of the side. Like, what they need is a manager to come in you know, somebody who truly doesn't give a shit what people think of him, like Louis van Gaal or something, just to come in and cut all the rubbish so that whoever comes in next has a much better situation. Because like you guys were saying about the wage bill, I think the average wage at Barcelona, I mean, this is brought up a lot by the top earners, but I think the average wage is like 11 million euros a year, which is like 200k a week. Like, that is obscene. That against Bayern Munich, they named their oldest ever Champions League starting lineup. Like, they need somebody who's going to come in, like, with a blowtorch and just get rid of all this. And it's going to take more than a year. But when you say, like, he's a stopgap, there was, of course, the rumour that he was going to be in charge for a year and then Xavi was going to come in. But you've got to be really certain that Xavi is the guy if you're committing to a multi-year process to get him. Like, I mean, I just kind of wish they'd done something, like, really ambitious. Like, just said, you know what? Like, let's just go and take, like, Erik ten Hag off Ajax and just see what it's like. Because at the very least, it would shake things up. And now, I don't know, in a way, it annoys me that all these players, including Messi, are whining and whining and whining about, like, how stagnant Barcelona is. And they're all f***ing responsible for it. Like, Messi is absolutely responsible for it, along with the other senior players. Because they're the guys who all along, whenever a manager has tried to do anything unusual, they're the ones who are like, oh, I don't like it. Like, just play my friends. Like, just play a fun team. Like, I don't want to press. I don't want to, like, you know, play modern football. I just want to play the Barcelona way. Like, they're all kids. Like, they just need somebody who's going to say, like, I'm sorry, but, like, you're no longer the most important person at the club. You're 33 now. And really just change the way of doing things, because the Barcelona way actually is not a particular style that they've always stuck to. The Barcelona way originally, like, when they were under, like, Rinus Michels or whatever, and then Cruyff, it was progressive, and it was like, let's incorporate new ideas, let's do new things, as opposed to let's just constantly, like, harp on about our glorious past.
Yeah, I mean, in 2013, I recall Messi saying that, like, Barcelona isn't a business when he was calling out. I think the director at the time was called Faust, and they've really taken that to heart since, haven't they, and incorporated it into their ethos. Like, I mean, Laporta ran up a lot of debts. The subsequent, you know, president brought it down a little bit. But he's on close to triple digits, right, per annum. And it has just become, the Barcelona way has become the players dictate what happens. And now we talk about, like, Koeman becoming a stopgap, and him being, you know, coming in and being pragmatic. I mean, that's what Valverde was doing, wasn't he? Being pragmatic, sort of implementing a system that maybe suited the talent but didn't suit the philosophy, and was finding results, albeit, you know, not playing the most attractive football that Barcelona fans have become accustomed to. And now that's what they're reverting to again. Like, I wonder what system Koeman will play, because I recall, like, in his last stint as a manager,
nailed
at the club,
on 4-3-3.
He was playing 4-2-3-1 at Everton, though, wasn't he? And I think that's what he incorporated largely at Southampton as well. And I'm just thinking, you know, that might be a way to cover Busquets for another year. You know, playing a double pivot is a way to bring De Jong back. Obviously, it would involve Messi playing at 10, and therefore your wingers have got to be really hard working. But yeah, I'm interested to see what system he's even going to incorporate.
I kind of hated him, though, at Southampton, like, and at Everton. Like, I thought he was really boring and terrible. Like, I mean, at
a lot of crosses, wasn't it?
And do you remember at Southampton there was a stint as well where their results weren't going the right way, even though they were playing quite well, and he benched Tadic and Mane, because he was just like, oh, we just need to try something new, and he literally benched his two best players, and the results got worse. And I was like, this does not suggest that he is a manager who knows who is good and who isn't. I think he's perfectly good international manager, because, yeah, he's going to play, like, a simple, practical system, which, if you have good players, will basically be fine. At Barcelona, though, like, I don't know, maybe he gets a little bit of leeway, because maybe there is a bit of a feel-good factor and everybody, like, cheers up a little bit at the start of the season.
Yeah, he's got a history of having a bumper first season, hasn't he?
Yeah,
and
but
also,
I mean,
like,
he's followed, like, I mean, at Southampton, he did have quite a fun act to follow, right? He came in after Pochettino. Like, I think I could have had quite a good first
and
season
Southampton at that time had a very good transfer policy.
They
and,
did.
You know, very good scouts. I think it was Les Reed as well was there at the club, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
But when he's been given money, when he was given that £140 million by Everton to spend to create a Champions League side, a side that can compete to qualify for the Champions League even, like they went out and they might not have all been his signings. It might be unfair to sort of, beat him with this stick. But the players they bought in and the money they spent was absolutely unforgivable in that one transfer window when they had Wayne Rooney on huge money and the understanding was he was going to play centre mid or number 10. Then he went out and got Klaassen as well. He went out and got Sigurdsson. They spent 20 plus million on Yannick Bolasie. Like, if you're coming into a club where the chairman's just said that, only 8 players are unsellable and the rest can go, you're then bringing in a manager with a iffy transfer record to oversee that, it makes it all the more sort of like brings more pressure on him that the fact they've sacked Abidal as well, right? I can't really compute it, to be honest.
Yeah, but even the sacking of Abidal has just been so bad, isn't it? Ever since sort of Zuba Zareta in 2016. Like, I was just looking earlier at some of the people that have been in charge of their transfer business, and they've had about 10 since 2016. They had Bartomeu, who's always involved. They've got Javier Bordas, who's been involved. Mestra's been involved. Raul Sanyehi's been involved. Robert Fernandez, Raymond Plains, Eric Abidal, Oscar Grau, Pep Segura.
Plains has picked it up now, right? Plains is... I think he's in there still.
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess from top to bottom, isn't it? So just going back to the squad then, not to detract from the Ronald Koeman discussion, which is obviously going to run and run until we see what he's actually like. Should we move into the midfield? Because it feels like there's a load of work to be done there. You were touching upon it, Pato. Vidal, having watched him against Bayern, he's just gone, isn't he? It just didn't really know where he's playing as a sort of Vidal as a false 9 left winger, really. Ugly scenes. Rakitic probably going to get sold as well. Arthur's already been sold. So Pjanic comes in. Do we see it just being Pjanic, Coutinho, De Jong, Pat? Is that too bad? I feel like that's okay. It's probably not going to rip up any trees, but solid enough.
It's not particularly defensively sound, I would say. Pjanic has never been a great defender. At his best, he's been okay. Coutinho does more pressing than he's given credit for. But still, I would worry about that team versus big sides. But the thing is, the kind of moves that Barcelona can afford to make and that would be useful, they just won't. Like they could go out and find those kind of £30 million players. Go and try and get like a Locatelli. There are these guys around, but I just think that they'll again go for what they know. So they'll try and get Fabian Ruiz. And to be honest, if they got Fabian Ruiz, that would be great. Fabian Ruiz is a proper box-to-box midfielder. He's really creative. He's also capable of exceptional defensive output. He's a good ball progressor. He's young. That makes sense, except that I think that they'd horrifically overpay to do it. But I don't know, man. You talked about Thiago, bringing Thiago back. It wouldn't be the worst kind of stopgap move, but I feel like they've already got kind of 3 or 4 of those players. So I truly find this one difficult. If I were them, I would go and look at I'd maybe try and sell Coutinho if I could get good money and bring in Lorenzo Pellegrini and Manuel Locatelli. Look around at the buyout clauses that you've got. Even if Real Madrid don't want Ceballos and you can get him for reasonable money, or he's a bit old. He's a bit older than I'd like, but pay Thomas Partey's buyout clause. At Atletico Madrid, it's 45 mil. He would immediately improve their midfield and free up De Jong, and then you've actually got quite an exciting midfield. But
or maybe have a stab at Houssam Aouar at Lyon.
I just think it would be so much money, man.
Do you think Aouar fits into the side if we're already struggling to find a place for Coutinho?
Yeah, I think Coutinho would have to leave for them to afford anyone because he's probably one of their few saleable assets.
160 million euros.
Ndombele might be a gettable player, Pat.
Yeah, these are ones where this is what we're talking about. Where are their assets going to bring in a huge amount of money? No. Could they feasibly use them to maybe get a better player? Probably, yeah. You could imagine them saying to Spurs, okay, we're going to give you Nelson Semedo, or we're going to give you Junior Firpo and one of our midfielders and a little bit of money for Ndombele, and that could actually work out pretty well. because Mourinho's the kind of guy who's susceptible to those sorts of moves. But truly, I find it difficult just because like we can sit around and come up with like clever midfielders for Barcelona to sign, but they're not going to do it. And I also I also literally have no idea how much money there is. Like if you told me Barcelona are going to go and spend 150 mil in the window and just go into more debt, I'd kind of believe you. But similarly, if you told me they have literally no money and won't be able to spend for the next 2 summers, I believe you on that as well. I mean, so yeah, I think that they've got to start looking for these kind of like 20 to 30 million bargains, because Real Madrid have done that. You know, like they've shopped in Brazil and they overpaid a little bit there, but like they picked up Dani Ceballos when he had a 15 million buyout clause at Betis, and then Sevilla picked up like Joan Jordan, you know, when he had a really cheap buyout clause as well. I think that Barcelona could probably do with a couple of those sorts of moves.
Yeah, I mean, who left Valencia this summer for like £1 million?
What, Dani Parejo?
Danny Parejo went on a free. They let him go. Like they said, so long as you forego the last 2 years of your contract, we'll let you go on a free.
So would it have been the worst? Would it have been the worst to pick up Danny Parejo for nothing?
Mental.
When you see some of the players in this midfield. So let's go on to the forwards though, because it looks like number 9 is definitely going to be a position they're on the hunt for. Luis Suarez effectively is going to be asked to leave the club, I think, given that he is 33 on a massive wage, and they're going to try and find a buyer with 1 year left on his contract.
But he's Messi's best friend, so it doesn't matter.
But Ajax are reportedly, according to Fabrizio anyway, in talks with him, which I guess would be a fun move to see him go back there. Whether or not they can afford his wage remains to be seen.
And you kind of don't want Ajax to pay his wage, do you? You don't want Ajax to sort of foot the 15 million euro bill, because you want them to keep producing talent and to keep scouring Europe's lower leagues in the same way that they are now. So you can't be disappointed in Ajax from that sense. Yeah, they need a bit of speed up front, don't they?
What about, why don't they just play Griezmann through the middle? Like when Suarez leaves, why doesn't Koeman just play Griezmann through the middle? It just seems the most obvious option.
They probably will, won't they?
He's got a 15-year contract, doesn't he, at Barcelona? It's so long. No chance they shift him. Absolutely no chance.
Yeah, I mean, the wide talent would have to be super kind of physical, wouldn't it? I guess if you're playing Messi off of Griezmann.
I think if you played Messi, Ansu Fati, and Griezmann through the middle, it's passable for a season while you kind of rejuvenate and recuperate. Because the options of like Lautaro Martinez, it's just not going to happen. Like Lautaro Martinez is just way out of their budget. They're not going to be able to spend £120 million and get Lautaro Martinez out of Inter Milan.
Yeah, there's going to have to come a point in time when they just accept the ramifications of... And I know football's not run like a business, although the top clubs are actually starting to earn meaningful amounts of money. But they're just going to have to accept the ramifications of like the last 3 or 4 windows. They've just been chasing ghosts, haven't they, for the last 2 years? And they might have to just be like, okay, we're gonna finish second again this season because Real Madrid are actually run infinitely better than us at the moment. And Zidane's actually been able to sideline their superstars, without the whole dressing room turning on him and them sort of reporting directly into the club's hierarchy. But I think they just need to temper their expectations for the next year. They've engineered this situation themselves. But yeah, I don't really have any striking options. I think Gabriel Jesus would be interesting if he still finds himself on the bench when Sergio Aguero comes back from surgery and he's still playing the majority of games, because you get the sense that Gabriel Jesus is kind of getting itchy feet now, and rightly so. He's been very patient in terms of securing that starting berth, hasn't he? But it's hard to find an elite number 9.
They should have gone for Anthony Martial when he was getting isolated by Jose Mourinho. Like when we were talking about when he probably wasn't quite at Barcelona's level. Like Anthony Martial would be such a good number 9 in this Barcelona team now. They should have gone for that sort of level of move, isolated players when Jose was in charge. But nevertheless, I mean, we've been so negative about Barcelona. Is there anything to be positive about in this Barcelona setup at the moment? There's got to be something.
There's still enough talent for a very, very good manager to put out a title challenging side, isn't there? I don't think it's a Champions League winning outfit, but it's just a shame that these players aren't going to get these players aren't going to get their last dance, so to speak. These players that have served them really well for the last decade or so, although they have been paid very handsomely to do so and made it, like Pat mentioned, sort of hard for more practical managers to enact a game plan at times. But Yeah, I'm racking my brain, mate. I actually think the positive is that for an awful lot of clubs, maybe at Europa League level, there's going to be some great pickups from Barcelona this year. If you can get Firpo for 15 mil, go for him. You know, if you can get Umtiti on a cut price deal, brilliant. So yeah, that's probably silver linings for other supporters.
Yeah, there we go. Barcelona fans, we want to hear from you as well. Who would you sign? Who would you let go? If you were Ronald Koeman, let us know in the comments below right now. Right, let's move on to quickfire questions. Okay, let's battle off a couple of these. Arjan Saldana says, should Chelsea bring in Declan Rice or trust Ethan Ampadu next season, Pat?
I would not get Declan Rice because he's horribly overpriced. I mean, like, I suppose on the one hand, he apparently, according to Lampard, would cover them in centre midfield and at centre back, but I don't think he's really going to add anything they don't have in central midfield, and then you're left converting him to centre back. Like, I don't think you have to do either one of these. Like, you can buy a centre back for less than 80 mil who's not Declan Rice. Like, there are these guys around. We've seen Southampton pick up Mohamed Salisu for his buyout, which is about, what is it, 10.5 mil. Again, Gabriel is available. Like, these are people who Chelsea could easily look at. So I think Ethan Ampadu will probably go out on another loan. He's still extremely young. But if I were Chelsea, I wouldn't target Declan Rice. Like, it looks like they're going to probably overpay. If you get Chilwell, you're going to overpay for him. So try and compensate for that by just paying a little bit less for a centre-back and trust the fact that Chilwell's, defensive ability will help that person out. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think Declan Rice is going to be... they're going to value him at like £80 million. And there's no way they're going to spend 70 million on Chilwell and 80 million on Declan Rice and 90 on Havertz. It's just not going to happen, especially this summer. I know that Declan Rice is like holidaying with all the Chelsea players and Chelsea legends, big Chelsea fan, Chelsea academy boy, but I just don't think it's realistic to think that could happen this summer. Next one from creator_08. Why are English clubs not performing well in Europe, Hamster?
What a question.
What a stupid
I have to say, I disagreed. I think they've actually done all right. 2 English clubs in the final of Europa last season. 2 English clubs in the final of the Champions League. United got to the semis. City maybe a little bit unfortunate not to get to the semis. I think that's isn't it, Hamster?
I mean, fans underestimating the quality of other leagues is a big factor in that, isn't it? It depends where your starting point is. If you think that, Man City should have battered Lyon and there was no merits to Lyon's, who are an incredibly well-run club, by the way. Aulas is a bit of a genius. I guess you would view English clubs as underperforming, but it's hard to address this in a meaningful way. I think their performances have been fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. Right, last quickfire question then before we do personal questions. Which player deserves a statue and doesn't have one? I'm guessing this is coming off the back of David Silva and Vincent Kompany both getting statues, and Paul Ince saying that Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry don't have any. Pat, anybody at Arsenal that deserves a statue and hasn't got one?
At Arsenal, I don't know, man. We got plenty of statues. Like, overall, like, if I just had to pick a player, probably Maldini. Like, Maldini's probably the best player who doesn't have a statue to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think they did retire the shirt for Maldini.
I don't. Yeah, they did retire the shirt, but like quite often, like these things end up being not permanent. Like they get unretired after a while, like Totti's. So
yeah.
Hopefully, I would rather they had a statue than kept the shirt retired. To be honest.
Yeah. I guess Messi. Has Messi got a statue yet? I know. Can you have a statue of a player that's still playing, but it should obviously have a statue right now? Any for you, Hamster? Celtic boys? Any Celtic boys? Scotty Brown? Statue or no statue?
Effie Ambrose. Yeah, I mean, Scott Brown will probably get one, 500 plus appearances. He's probably in his last year. What a statue that'd be.
All right, let's finish on a personal question because my laptop's about to die anyway. Siva the God says, favourite activity you've done this year? I don't know whether you've noticed, Siva, but we've not done all. There's been lockdown worldwide. Has anybody done an activity that's actually pre-lockdown, maybe? An activity as well. Some of the worst personal questions we've ever been sent, Siva, but I'm being kind there as well. Anything quickly, Pat?
I mean, like, I went to Paris before lockdown. That was pretty good. like eating and sleeping. Those were good things I did this year. I don't know. I'm reading Moby Dick at the moment, and it's
Is that the one about the whale?
fucking amazing. Like, I mean, like, you know, like when someone's like, "Oh, this book's a masterpiece," and then you read it, and quite often you're like, "This is boring." Like, but Moby Dick is genuinely. I'm like, why didn't anyone? Everyone tells you it's a great book, but no one tells you that it's like this far above what the normal level of like a great book is. Like, it's immediately like one of my favorite books ever. It's genuinely incredible.
Might give it a pop, mate.
I highly recommend Moby Dick.
Hamster, you got any activities that you've done this year that have been your favourite?
I mean, going away to somewhere, you know, it wasn't the most interesting destination, but that meant I could just chill the f*** out, read some books. Great book on Socrates the footballer. Started reading Soccernomics as well. I actually read a really good science book by Ben Goodacre, potentially, called Bad Science. Thinking it might be Goldacre now. Goldacre.
It is Goldacre. It is
Goldacre. Yeah, done. And it's just like debunking, you know, homeopathy and nutritionists. And it was nice to give my brain a rest from football as well. But I seem to have bought a lot of football books, so I do have a back catalogue of them. But yeah.
All right, there we go. So that's the end of Sunday Vibes this week. If you want to get your question answered next week, tweet it to us during the week or put it in the comments below. Although I don't know how many of the questions we actually take from the comments, so actually just tweet it to us. Hamster, what should people do next?
They should go and watch the podcast, obviously, or they should go and check out a top 10 on Euro Football Daily. That still goes out on a Sunday, right? Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. The Football Pyramid would have been out yesterday as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the podcast is very relevant to this video, so go and subscribe to that because the podcast channel's doing really well in it, Pat.
Yeah, it seems to be like good work from Mike Atkins there, like getting the podcast channel up and running, and thanks to all of you who've subscribed to it. So yeah, if you want a little bit more background on the Barcelona mess and a discussion of the 8-2 defeat to Bayern Munich, then head over to that, and just generally like make sure you subscribe to it on whichever podcast app you use, as well as clicking the link on the whatever, you know.
Nailed it.
You know what, mate?
Nailed it, Pat.
Let's just move on.
Let's just wrap it up. All right.
Let's just wrap it up.
Do it. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later.